Friends, welcome back to my channel. Let's talk books with Shannon. I am Shannon, and we're going to do my November wrap-up today. I read, 8 books this month. 6 of them were romance, 1 was general fiction, and 1 was fantasy. Of the 8 books I read, 5 were on my TBR list from the beginning of November. So let's just jump right in. First book I read this month was on my TBR list, and that was Catherine Center's Happiness for Beginners. This one, we follow Helen and Jake. Helen is recently divorced, and her life's a bit of a mess. She's trying to find herself. Her brother Duncan suggests that she go on this wilderness course or this trip. It's several days. I think it's a week. But she really doesn't have any experience in hiking or anything, but she decides she's going to do it, and she's bound and determined to find herself, and she thinks this is the way to do it. So she commits, and then she also finds out last minute that her brother's best friend, Jake, is also going on the trip. Jake has always been very annoying, always been her brother's annoying best friend. But when they get there, she decides to tell him, she says, "Don't act like you know me. Act like we're strangers." So he agrees. And of course, Jake hits it off with everyone. He is everyone's best friend in that group. So they love him. So then, and they're forced together on because of some experience being a medic. And of course, she ends up with blisters and all kinds of other issues. So they're forced together. It's kind of a forced proximity trope. And also, there's an age gap. Ellen is much older than Jake, so if you don't like age gap tropes, then you might not like this one, but it was done well. I really liked it. I don't always like age gap tropes, but I really liked this book. It was heartwarming, and I love the nature element. I'm a hiker, and I just loved the wilderness, and the whole nature element was really fun for me. Very heartwarming. It's a story about resilience and self-discovery, and I gave it 4.25 stars. The next book I read was my fantasy book this month. I read Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I am new to fantasy this year. I've read 6 or 7 fantasy books this year, and I'm really starting to enjoy them. So in this one, we follow Kai and Peyton. Kai is a prince, and he is also a warrior for his dad, the king. And he's considered to be one of the elites, and all the elites have powers. Peyton is put in the category of the ordinaries, and the ordinaries do not have powers. Now, the elites are always trying to kill the ordinaries because they feel they take their powers away. So we have Peyton, who's an ordinary, and she and her sister live in the slums, and she's a thief just trying to get by. In order to stay alive, she pretends that she's an elite. She's really good at reading people, so she pretends that she can read the future and tell people what's going to happen to them in the near future. So that's one of the ways she's kind of a self-preservation thing that she picks up. But she's in town, and she runs into Kai, and he's in some sort of trouble, and she ends up saving his life inadvertently. So because of that, it becomes very public that she saved his life, and she's thrown into this competition. And all the entire competition is full of elites, and they end up trying to get rid of one another and kill each other off. But this is how she and Kai become close, and they end up helping each other out in the competition, and it's forced proximity, it's enemies to lovers, it's he falls first. He is a delight. I loved him in this story, and the romance between the two of them is fire. It was really, really good. I gave this book 4 stars, and the only reason I didn't give it higher was mostly because it was so, I want to say, overly inspired. It felt overly inspired to me by the Hunger Games. And it was just too reminiscent of it, but really well written. And for a debut novel, I thought it was amazing. So I will definitely continue to read the series in the new year. I think there's a novella out, Powerful, and then Reckless is the next one. So I will be reading both of those. Love this one, 4 stars. Oh, a quote from this one. "And I'll save your life again and again, aimlessly, hoping you will allow me to stay in it." Kai says that to her. Oh my gosh, so good. Okay, my next read. Oh my gosh, I love this book so much. Play Along by Liz Tom Ford. This book is the 4th book in the Windy City series. It's a sports romance. It follows Isaiah and Kennedy. Isaiah is a shortstop for the professional Major League Chicago team. And he is a very positive, glass half full kind of guy, always trying to make everyone feel better, always wants everyone to be happy. So he is a delight. And we have Kennedy. Kennedy has just been hired for the team. She actually thought she was being hired as the second doctor for the team because she is graduated from medical school and is certified to be a doctor. But once she gets there, the head doctor didn't realize that she was a woman, and he does not let her have the position because of that. So that is ugly. And he does say that she can stay on as a physical therapist. And so she does. And she loves that job. Of course, she longs to be a doctor, but she loves the job that she has with the team. So she has a bit of a history. She is, her sister is marrying Kennedy's ex. Kennedy breaks up with this guy, and then her sister ends up getting engaged to him. So she's got that to deal with. And she's in Vegas on a bachelorette party for her sister, one she doesn't want to attend. Of course, she has a lot of problems with her family. So she's on this bachelorette party, and she runs into Isaiah. Isaiah's in Vegas because they're doing a team bonding event before spring training. So he has always had a thing for her. He, in the book previous to this, Kai's book, Caught Up, he was always after Kennedy. He loved her. So he realizes that she's no longer engaged, and he starts to make his move. And anyway, so they're in Vegas, and they end up spending a evening just having a blast and drinking way too much. And in a reckless, drunken stupor, they end up getting married. That happens in the very beginning of the story. Kennedy wants to prove to her family that she is over her fiance and that it's fine with her if her sister marries him. So they end up getting married, and of course, then they have remorse the next morning, of course, once they're sober. But they get back to Chicago, and they go in to talk to the team about it, and they come to realize that in order for Kennedy to keep her job, they need to stay married for a year. And so they do. So they decide that's the place. So then that's kind of where everything takes off from there. But OMG, I love this book so much. I loved Kennedy, but I adored Isaiah. 5 stars for me. This book was 5 stars. The banter was great. I'm looking forward. There's going to be one more in this series. I can't wait. And I have been thinking about this book a lot since I finished it this month. So highly recommend this series. I know a lot of people, the first book in the series was Mile High. I know a lot of people did not like that book. I did. It was fine. It's my least favorite in the series that I've read so far, but it was still a 4-star read. All the others have been over 4 stars. So I recommend the series. A quote for this one. Oh my gosh, he had so many. Let me see. I love this one. How lucky am I that I get to love and be loved so effortlessly? That was a good one. The next book I read was Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. And this is an unexpected pregnancy trope. And I know a lot of people don't like that trope, but this one is handled really well. We have Bo and Win, and they both have disabilities. Win has a deformity of the hand, and Bo has a prosthetic leg. They are both at a Halloween party to start the book, and end up really liking each other and hitting it off. And they end up hooking up that evening. And they're both thinking that they will never really see each other again. Win is the type person who is very independent and doesn't like to be coddled because of her disability, and very much, wants to do things on her own, and she feels she doesn't need a boyfriend. And Bo hasn't really had sex since his prosthetic leg. He had cancer of the leg, which is why it was amputated. And he decides, this might be a way to kind of come to terms with, get comfortable with sex with my prosthetic leg. So anyway, they decide to hook up. So they do. Wen ends up getting pregnant, and she ends up telling Bo about it. And he is totally up for the challenge and excited about it. And Wen is kind of not sure of the challenge, but she decides to keep the baby. And they end up moving in together and decide to just be friends while they navigate this parenthood thing. So she ends up living with him because she lives in a dump, And so he does pretty well. So she ends up moving in with him, and the story goes from there. And it is delightful. I gave this book 4.5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I thought the meet cute was really cute in the beginning. I thought the disabilities was handled beautifully. I thought the pregnancy trope was handled beautifully. One of my favorite things about this book was the communication between the two of them was wonderful. Wonderful. No miscommunication trope. I love that. And no third act breakup. So I love that as well. So 4.5 stars for this one. A good quote from that. You became like water. You move with it all. You're soft but powerful. Okay, the next book I read was my general fiction book, and I read Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. This is not my first book by this author. I read A Man Called Ove a couple years ago, or last year or the year before. But loved this book. Loved that one and loved this one. This is a book just about being human. It is a story about a crime that never really takes place. A would-be bank robber takes 8 anxious people hostage, and you get to know these people intimately. This book is sad, it's tragic, it's heartwarming, it's funny. I laughed several times during this book. I just feel like it's a must read. I really loved it. I gave this book, I think, 4.25 stars. And the quote I have from this one is, "We need to be allowed to convince ourselves that we're more than the mistakes we made yesterday. That we are all of our next choices too. All of our tomorrows." It was a good one. Highly recommend. Okay. Next book was Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. The first one was Wild Love. This is the second book in the Rose Hill series. And I love Elsie Silver's writing, so I'm reading all of her series. But this one, we are following West and Skylar. Skylar is a country star who has kind of lost her way. She's tired of being controlled and being told what to do and where to do it and when to do it. So she's trying to gain control of her life again. So she has ridded herself of all the toxic people in her life. She's come to this small town to record in Ford's studio. She's also has had a history lately of freezing up in front of an audience. So again, that was just one of the symptoms of the trouble she's having. So she moves to the small town. Now, we have West, who is a horse trainer there and a single dad. And West is everything. West is dreamy and confident and masculine and a fabulous father and a great horse trainer. And he and Skylar have sparks right off the bat. Of course, they come from different worlds, so neither one of them see anything long-term, of course, in the beginning of the book. But I gave this book 4.5 stars. I absolutely loved it, and I highly recommend all of Elsie Silver's series. I have loved every one of them. Let's see, one of my quotes for this one is, "Breathing is overrated. I'd rather be drowning in you." I have several quotes from this book, actually, that I really loved. But another thing that I loved about this book, if you have read the first one yet, we got a nice visit from Ford and Rosie again from the first book. I love that, how the characters flow through all the books. It's always fun. So this book was a lot of fun. Okay, and the last book I read this month was The Enemy by Sarah Adams. I have read 3 other Sarah Adams books and loved them. I love her style of writing. Her books are typically closed door or no sex. So if that's the kind of romance you like, then you will like this one a lot. This one we're following June and Ryan. June is part owner of a donut shop. She owns it with her best friend Stacy, and in Charleston. And Ryan is a renowned chef, and he lives in the city. I think it's Chicago. But anyway, Stacy's getting married, who is June's best friend, and Ryan comes back to town for the wedding because he is best friends with Stacy's fiance. So Ryan and June have a history growing up of just pulling pranks on each other and acting like they hated each other all the time when really they were into each other. So when he gets to town, she wants to show him up, and I think there are 12 years prior when they were in school, he was at graduation and he dangled a kiss in front of her and then he walked away or something, and she's very upset about that, so she wants revenge. So he comes back for the wedding, and their story takes off from there. So it was cute chemistry and fun banter, and like I said, I like the way Sarah Adams writes. I loved Ryan. I thought he was awesome and very swoony. But June annoyed me a little bit. It just felt like she was very immature for 30 years old and still wanting to pull, get revenge and pull pranks. And I just didn't see a lot of growth in her character. But I enjoyed the writing and I had a lot of fun reading it, but it just wasn't my favorite of Sarah Adams. It's probably my least favorite of the 4 books I've read from her. I gave this book 3 stars. One of the quotes that I did like from it was, "Some of us need to live through the healing rather than talk through it." Hey friends, I'm sorry for the change of lighting with this last book, but when I was editing, I realized I left out a book and the sun had already gone down, so I'm just going to squeeze this one in. I read in the month of November also Throttled by Lauren Asher. This is the first book in the Dirty Air series. This one it's a romance and it follows race car drivers. You don't have to be a fan of race car driving to enjoy this book. This one follows Maya and Noah. Maya has just graduated from college and her brother Santiago is a race car driver. She has decided to take some time off and travel around with him and see the world. And she vlogs his team and ends up being very successful on social media with that. And then we have Noah, who is also on the team. And Noah is ruthless and unapproachable in the beginning and has struggles with his family. He's got a real tumultuous relationship with his dad and his mom. And his dad sponsors the team, so that's actually is very significant. But he is legendary. He is a great race car driver, and he does not like Santiago much because they have a history. Noah has been in a pretty bad accident in the past, and he feels like Santiago was the reason for that accident. So, of course, he is very attracted to Maya, and sparks fly between them, but it is a forbidden romance. And enemies to lovers, forced proximity. It was a lot of fun. I gave this book 4.25 stars, and I'm definitely going to continue the series. A quote from this one was, "I think love is about happiness and sacrifice, compromising instead of arguing, having someone who's always there for you even when you don't deserve it. Loving someone means you want to spend the rest of your life with them on the good days and the bad days and everything in between." That is it for this month, friends. Thanks for tuning in. I'll have a lot going on in December. After my TBR, I've got a lot of end-of-year videos, so please tune in for those. So until next time, please take care of each other. Happy reading.